Are you planning to undertake a loft conversion, rear extension or remove chimneys from your property in England and Wales? You need to understand the implications of the Party Wall Act 1996, which makes you strictly liable with no delegation of duty. We are specialist party wall surveyors with over 20 years combined experience within our team. We've designed a video training course. You will be able to undertake this course at a time and a place to suit yourself, to help you understand all the implications and deal with the professionals. To make it risk-free, we will give you a 30-day money-back guarantee, and if you use our professional services in the future, we will refund any monies spent on the course. As a professional in the industry, take my advice, ensure compliance. Whether you use us, whether you buy the course or not, complying with the Act will avoid delays and costs. The Party Wall Act came into force on 1st of July 1997. It applies to all properties, commercial or residential, throughout England and Wales. The Party Wall Etc. Act 1996, to give it its full title, will be referred to as the Act. The Act does not apply to Scotland or Northern Ireland. Now, the purpose of the Act is to ensure building owners, people who own the building, can carry out certain works without the need to go to court or stop them from the neighbours taking them to court. It's a dispute resolution procedure to enable building owners to build various types of projects and also offer protection to adjoining owner whose property may be affected by the works. The primary reason for the Act is to enable building works to take place and also ensure the adjoining owner's property is protected. Planning, building control, boundary disputes, Party Wall Act, all of these various issues of property law have their own place. One does not exclude the other one. So in other words, if you've got planning, if a property owner has planning or is intending to do building works or is intending to undertake building works via permitted development, it does not mean that they are covered under the Party Wall Act and they do not have to undertake the Party Wall process. The Party Wall Act applies to all properties in England and Wales, whether they're commercial or residential. Party Wall Act is one of those pieces of legislation where the building owner is totally responsible for following the Party Wall Act and cannot be delegated to builders or project managers, and in the end it's the building owner who becomes responsible. A little bit like health and safety and other laws, it falls back to the property owner who carries the ultimate responsibility. Common types of works or properties. These could be residential, i.e. owned by residential owners, or residential property owned by buy-to-let landlords. Either way, most common type of works being carried out at the moment are loft conversions, rear extensions, taking out of chimneys. Now these could be the chimney breast, which is the chimney element below the roof line, or the chimney stack, which is the chimney above the roof line. and also basements. Most of these works are notifiable to adjoining owners. However, it depends on the nature of the works being proposed and the position and the distance of the adjoining owners' properties. Some of the other factors to consider include the ownership of the adjoining owners' properties, so whether the next door neighbour's property is a house or it's a house that's been converted into flats, whether the house is detached, semi-detached or terrace. Other factors will also include whether the flat owners are also the freehold owners and the length of lease that those properties have been leased to the leasehold owners. Who to serve notices, types of notices to serve. Depending on the type of works, building owners should consider serving notices as soon as their project goes in for planning, especially if they are proposing to undertake the works under permitted development, which means they're likely to doing the works. Who are the notifiable owners largely depends on the type of project, the location of your property and the location of your neighbouring properties in relation to yours, how your neighbours' properties are owned, i.e. do they have freeholders, leaseholders, whether the neighbouring property is one single house or it could be a house that's split into 2 or 3 flats. Also, if those owners are leasehold owners and if they're freehold owners, or in certain circumstances freehold owners can also be the leasehold owners. In case of leasehold owners, anybody with a leasehold of more than 1 year is notifiable, so therefore short-term leaseholders are excluded. However, this can mean leasehold owners of more than 1 year are notifiable owners. All these factors are looked at in conjunction with your project to decide who are the notifiable owners. Serving notice on the correct adjoining owners is important. We've had occasions where people who've been serving notices themselves have served on too many owners, some of which were not notifiable. This has meant extra expense and delay for those building owners. On the other hand, we've had building owners who've served notices themselves. On the opposite end of the scale, we've had building owners who've not served all the adjoining owners, and this has led to their project being held in mid-construction while the party wall matters are resolved. Therefore, it's very important notices are served in the correct manner to the right adjoining owners in order to ensure your building project can start and carry on without any issues. Most common type of works are rear extensions. Most rear extensions will need a Section 6 notice under the Party Wall Act, Section 6(1) to be exact, which is served in order to excavate for foundations and lay drainage. The test to see if a Section 6(1) notice is required or not comes in 2 parts. First part is if excavation is within 3 meters. Second part, if the excavation is going to a lower level when measured horizontally from the ground compared to the original foundations of the building within 3 meters. There is also a section 6.2 notice, which is more for probably basements and so forth, and comes into force where the excavations are deeper. The 3 meters are measured horizontally at ground level. Now the next question that comes into mind is, how do I know the depth of my neighbour's building's foundations? Following the heat wave of 1976, due to foundations being quite shallow before that, various buildings showed cracking in the foundations, so that building control regulations were changed, and from then onwards any buildings have a deeper foundation. So that if the building you're thinking is notifiable was built before 1976, it's likely that those foundations will be very shallow, and hence they will be notifiable if they're within 3 meters. If in doubt, it's better to serve a notice in order to avoid delays and disruption to your project. So the cut-off line in mind should be 76/80s. Hence, any buildings built after the 80s are likely to have a deeper foundation, therefore may not be notifiable, at least under section 6.1. If in doubt, it's better to serve. Now, where your house is a terrace house, it's likely that the owners of buildings on both sides will be notifiable. Who are the notifiable owners will be discussed separately as well, but just to touch upon the subject here, if it's a terrace house and you're building a rear extension, you've got 2 buildings that are notifiable, left and right, assuming the excavation's within 3 meters. Now the owners of those buildings depends on how those buildings are structured. So if you've got flats at the ground level, then the leaseholder for those flats are notifiable, and also the freeholder for each side. In the case of semi-detached houses, the house that's detached will definitely be notifiable. On the other side where there's a difference, it depends how far that difference is. If it's a driveway, driveways are normally approximately 2.4 meters. If your house has a driveway and the adjoining owner house has a driveway, then the distance is likely to be more than 3 meters, hence may not be notifiable. These distances are measured along the ground level horizontally. Again, with semi-detached houses, if the house adjoining your property it has been converted into flats or is a block of flats, again the leaseholders on the ground level will be notifiable, and also the freeholders of that building. On the other side of the semi-detached, that house is within 3 meters and it's been converted into flats, then both the leaseholder at the ground floor level and the freeholder is notifiable. Where there's a shed or a garage next to the house and that shed or garage is within 3 meters of your excavation, whether that shed is a notifiable structure depends on if it has a foundation. So that if you have a wooden fence that's just sitting on land, that's no foundation, so therefore that's not notifiable. The shed may be a wooden shed with a slab of concrete, and that unfortunately counts as a foundation, so therefore that becomes notifiable. Again, if in doubt, you should notify. Where you've got a semi-detached or a detached house and the original house and the original house is within 3 meters. However, there's been an extension in between. The extension will probably have had deeper foundations, but you will still need to measure beyond the new extension to see if the original structure building is within 3 meters, and it will still be notifiable. Lastly, detached houses. Again, a house may be detached, but if it's within 3 meters of your excavation, the owners of that house or building are notifiable. Again, if it's split into flats, the leaseholders and freeholders are also notifiable. And repeating previously, if there's been a building built since the original house and the original house is still within 3 meters, the owners of that building are notifiable. Again, if it's flats, the freehold and the leasehold owner are notifiable. The other point to remember when you're doing a rear extension, if you're connecting your original house to the extension while removing a rear wall, sometimes this rear wall is removed by inserting a steel into the party wall or inserting a box struck goalpost steelworks, and will require either the cutting into the party wall or fixing into the party wall. This is notifiable under Section 2 of the Act. Section 6 notices are notifiable within 30 days notice, which can be decreased if the adjoining owners agree. Section 2 of the Act is a 2-month notice, and again can be decreased if the adjoining owners agree. For rear extensions, Section 1 notices may also need to be issued. At the moment, probably because people are able to add extra 1 or 2 bedrooms to their property, be it flats or houses. Although each loft conversion is individual to its own project, most common factors are insertion of steels into the party wall to gain floor separation for the purposes of sound acoustics. This type of works is notifiable under the Section 22F of the Act and is a Section 3 notice, for which the normal notice period is 2 months. This notice period can be decreased by the agreement of the 2 owners. Loft conversions can also include notifiable works which are inserting flashing into the adjoining owner's property. The other piece of notifiable work may be removal of plaster, i.e. where you've got a party wall and because of the works being carried out, a refurbishment, plaster may need to be removed. It's also a good idea at the same time to notify the adjoining owners of weather protection to a party wall, i.e. the wall joining the 2 properties in the roof space is a party wall. Once you remove your roof for the purposes of constructing a loft, this party wall becomes exposed and may require weatherproofing for a temporary period. It is a good idea to ensure that the party wall is weatherproofed while works are going on, as this can lead to damp travelling down the wall and affecting your own property as well as your neighbours. In some loft projects, party walls are raised to form dormer cheeks, i.e. side of the walls of the loft conversion, in order to gain extra space. These are permitted under Section 2 of the Act and notifiable via Section 3 notice. However, there can be planning issues, as not all planners understand the term curtilage. This is a similar situation which occurred when permitted development for porches first came into place, and planners assumed that the PD allowance is included, whereas it's actually a separate section. So if you're planning to raise a party wall, you're actually allowed to do so by planning law. However, it can be the case where planners object. You will have to appeal, likely to win the appeal. But these days, people can't wait for the delay and usually build back or raise half the party wall, i.e. in the boundary. It's usually better to raise the full party wall, and that in brickwork, so that A, gains longer lifetime, B, is better for maintenance, and C, the neighbours are able to make use of it, and also gives a better finish to the inner loft. Now, once a party wall's been raised, when the neighbour makes use of it, again, Section 1111 of the Act applies, whereby making use means that the neighbour has to pay contribution towards the cost of construction of that wall. Usually the cost of construction, usually a Section 1111 contribution costs are made at the time of making use, and the costs are worked out at the time when the wall is made use of. Porches. This is quite interesting. Whether a porch is a notifiable piece of work depends on several factors. First one being how deep your foundation is going to be, and secondly, the proximity of your neighbouring property and the makeup. So, if you're digging to a depth that's deeper than the neighbour's foundations, so in the case of Victorian houses, these foundations are fairly shallow, and if your neighbour's house is within 3 meters of your excavation, which is quite likely in case of terrace or semi-detached houses, then this porch project becomes notifiable works. However, most porches are not constructed with very deep foundations, so it may be possible to create a slab foundation where the excavation is not very deep and hence unlikely to go below your neighbour's foundation, and may not be within 3 meters of their foundation. Most porch projects are unlikely to cause damage to the neighbouring property. However, the issue to be mindful here is that of boundaries and going beyond your neighbour's boundary. The actual answer is this is determined by the surveyors in making their award under any other matters, and the convention surveyors use is who benefits from the works. So that if you're doing a rear extension, a loft conversion, extracting chimneys, it's likely that the building owner carrying out the works will gain all the benefit and the adjoining owner none except inconvenience. So that it's only fair and right that the building owner pays for all the fees, stroke costs of the surveyors, including that of the adjoining owner surveyors fees. This is also the case whereby the building owner has to appoint a surveyor on behalf of the adjoining owner under section 10(4)(b) due to non-reply of party wall notice. However, there are instances whereby the works being carried out by one owner are due to lack of repairs and will benefit the other owner. And the most common example of this is whereby a chimney stack, i.e. chimney above the roof line, above the tiles, is being repaired. It has become dilapidated, worn out, stroke, falling apart because of the lack of repairs, and is used by a number of owners. Could be the issue that there's two flats on one side and a house on the other side, so that these costs are then split between the owners. The costs include doing the building works, appointing the surveyors, professional fees, etc., etc. These are usually apportioned between all the owners, and in most cases it would be the number of owners who pay for a share of the costs. This also applies to boundary walls where they are party walls and because of a lack of repair need repairing. Hence, these are also projects whereby the total costs, including surveyors' costs, are apportioned between the owners. Depending on the type of project, recovering costs is not always easy, and the level of costs may mean it's easier and simpler, cheaper just to carry out the works.